Are you truly sure they value who you are?
Or are they just afraid of losing what you give them? It doesn't begin with glory or triumph. It begins with a quiet sense of unease. The feeling that someone's watching, judging, waiting.
It's not paranoia, it's intuition.
A whisper from within. The world isn't what it seems. Smiles aren't always sincere. Support can be bait. Affection might just be a tactic to keep you under control. You were taught from an early age, be nice, be polite, be agreeable, and you'll earn respect. But what if that's a well crafted trap? What if your kindness is the very thing that makes you vulnerable? Every time you let someone in without conditions, you leave the door open for those who will walk in, not with warmth, but with intent. You believe that being soft made you strong, that people would love you for it. But love built on comfort is fleeting. People don't cherish what they take for granted. The easier you are to reach, the more predictable your reactions, the sooner they realize you can be managed. And no one admires someone they can manage. People respect strength, not loud, aggressive, boastful strength. Real strength, quiet, firm, and unmistakable. The kind you don't need to explain, the kind that radiates in silence, in a calm stare, in the ability to say no without fear of losing approval. Real power doesn't fear misunderstanding because it knows being too understood is a trap. The problem is you were raised to do the opposite. You got used to chasing approval, terrified of disappointing others, addicted to praise, and in doing so, you made yourself convenient. But the convenient aren't respected, they're used, and when no longer needed, they're discarded. With time, you start to notice a pattern. The kinder you are, the less they listen. The more you give, the more they demand. You think, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. A number. The problem isn't that you're not trying, the problem is that you're trying at all. Because the one who tries to please is the one who fears losing. The powerful don't fear loss. They know whatever is lost, they remain whole. So, what earns true respect? It's not love, not affection, not even gratitude. It's the presence of clear boundaries. People don't cross the line because they care. They stop because they know what happens if they do. That silent awareness, that's where lasting respect is born. When you present yourself as someone who can't be fully predicted, people become cautious. They stop testing your limits. They begin to listen, not because they adore you, but because they don't know what you might do next. And in that unpredictability lies a strength far greater than kindness can offer. This doesn't mean you must be cruel, it means you must be deliberate. Be kind when you choose to, not when you're expected to. You are not required to forgive everything. You're not obligated to always be available. You have the right to distance. In fact, you must create it. Respect begins the moment you first say, "This ends here," the moment you stop justifying yourself. When you don't explain, you just leave. When you make it clear you're not here to entertain, to comfort, to be everyone's solution, you are not a gift. You are a force. Your value lies not in how pleasing you are, but in how necessary you are. And that's what unsettles people. The realization that you can vanish, that you cannot be controlled, that you're sovereign, that's the birth of power, not power over others, but over yourself. Because as long as you depend on approval, you are not free. And no one respects the unfree. Think for a moment. When was the last time someone admired you not for your kindness, but for your conviction? Not for yielding, but for your firmness? Not for your smile, but for not letting them push you? Those are the moments that build real reputation. Not being liked, being unwavering, not being pleasant, being resolute. But this path has a price. It's not crowded, it's not easy. People will pull away, some will fear you, Some will resent you, some will leave, but those who remain, they understand. You don't bend, you don't beg, you walk beside others but never on a leash. And those few, they're real. This road is solitary, but it's the only one that frees you. It takes you out of dependence. It makes you a presence that lingers even in silence. It gives weight to your decisions. And the longer you walk it, the clearer it becomes. You have become someone whose absence is louder than most people's voices. How many times have you mistaken betrayal for a coincidence, not realizing you gave permission for it yourself? You don't see it right away. It starts with the little things. Someone asks for more than they've earned. Someone crosses a line. Someone hurts you once. And you forgive not because you're weak, but because you think it's the right thing to do. You've been taught that generosity is power, that forgiveness elevates you, that kindness is the ultimate form of leadership. But that's a lie, dressed in noble words. True kindness is a choice, not an obligation. When it becomes automatic, people stop believing in it. They begin to exploit it. Betrayal doesn't always strike like lightning. It often creeps in step by step. Not because people are evil, but because you allowed them to. Every time you ignored disrespect, you validated it. Every time you gave in to someone who didn't deserve it, you taught them they could do it again. And the worst part, you thought this was virtue. You believed it made you a big-hearted. But in truth, it made you convenient. People don't betray those they fear losing. They betray those who forgive too easily. Because if everything is forgiven, the price becomes too cheap. And when something has no cost, people stop valuing it. You may have believed loyalty grows from gratitude, but gratitude is one of the most fleeting emotions. It lasts only as long as it's convenient to remember what you did for them. One wrong move, and everything you gave is forgotten. You were there when no one asked. You helped without being needed. You believed the more you gave, the more would come back. But you missed the crucial truth. Excessive generosity creates a sense of entitlement, not appreciation. People get used to it. They see it as owed. And the moment you stop giving, you're suddenly the villain. Have you noticed how quickly the tone changes when you finally say no? Suddenly you're cold, distant, not who you used to be, but you haven't changed. You've simply started protecting your space, and that terrifies those who got used to walking through your open door. This is the turning point. You begin to see it clearly. Kindness without power is a trap. People start to respect you not when you give, but when you set limits. They stop toying with you when they sense real consequences. True respect emerges when you calmly and deliberately show that you see more than you let on, that you can be kind, but you're not required to be. That forgiveness isn't weakness, it's a calculated move, a strategy, not a reflex. You are not obligated to be the rescuer. Sometimes letting them fall is the wiser choice. Let them feel your absence. Let them understand what it's like to walk without your support. Only then will they recognize its value. Because true power isn't about holding everyone up. It's about knowing when to let go. You're not the background, you're the source. You're not just a piece of the scene, you're the stage they perform on. And if someone doesn't understand that, their departure isn't your loss, it's your freedom. This is where maturity begins. Power without awareness becomes tyranny. Kindness without limits becomes self-destruction. Your mission is to master the balance. Be a shield, not a doormat. Be a light, but not a lamp others switch on at will. And this is an art. An art no one teaches. One you only learn through pain, disappointment, and collapse. You must learn to see who's beside you out of conviction and who's there out of convenience. Not all traitors carry knives. Some carry compliments. Not all attacks are from behind. Some come disguised as advice. Leadership isn't just strategy, it's constant, relentless observation. It's the ability to distinguish a supportive smile from one that's secretly waiting for your fall. Too many have lost everything not because they were weak, but because they failed to see how their kindness was turned into a weapon against them. Too many thought forgiveness would save relationships, when in reality they were feeding a snake. But you have a choice: to stop being convenient, to stop fearing the loss of favor, to start building yourself not as a resource, but as a presence to be reckoned with. Strength isn't the absence of kindness, it's the ability to control it. Do you really know where respect ends and silent endurance begins in those around you? The world constantly tests your strength. Someone asks a few too many questions. Someone holds their gaze just a bit too long. Someone smiles, but their eyes don't. These aren't random moments, they're signals. They're reactions to your presence, your posture, your strength, or your lack of it. You may believe you have power, that you're in control, that people listen to you, but ask yourself this: what would happen if you disappeared? Not for a day, for a long time. Would people still follow your principles? Would your influence remain, or would they quickly replace you with a new voice to follow? That's the difference between fear and respect. Fear controls behavior while you're present. Respect guides action even in your absence. Real strength doesn't rely on constant visibility. It embeds itself in others' choices, like a law that no one dares to break, even when the enforcer is gone. You're not meant to be just a leader. You must become an internal compass to those around you. And that isn't built on orders and rules. It's built on understanding that people don't remember what you say. They remember what they feel in your presence. You can speak confidently, show strength, but if there's no balance in your actions, it will turn into control and eventually into resentment. The most dangerous mistake a leader can make is to cross the line between respect and domination, because domination breeds rebellion. Quiet at first, but lethal in time. Historical example: Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the greatest strategists in history. He could inspire, enforce discipline, and command loyalty. His army followed him through frost and death, not just because he was their commander, but because he was a symbol. But where did he fail? He believed his power was absolute. He assumed respect didn't need renewal, that he had become untouchable. And from that moment, his downfall began. He lost the very balance that had made him powerful. Power that isn't managed is fire. It can warm or it can burn. Respect is born from the careful rhythm between pressure and freedom. Constant pressure exhausts. People adapt. They look for exits, for resistance, for deception. But when you know how to release the pressure, even briefly, you give people air, and they begin to value your hand on their shoulder. The paradox of power is that it doesn't come from control, but from conscious release. Sometimes you must allow others to fail. Let someone make a poor decision, not out of carelessness, but strategy, so that they experience the consequence. So they realize on their own just how vital your guidance is. You don't need to prove constantly that you can strike. That makes you predictable. And predictability is the enemy of influence. Remember, people don't fear the one who yells. They fear the one who speaks little, but with precision, the one who rarely uses force, but when they do, the impact lasts. The most effective leader isn't the one who's always right, it's the one whose rare decisions become legendary. That's why you must master the art of unpredictability. Unexpected praise, unexpected silence, and unexpected refusal. These moments are like sharp cuts through the emotional fabric of your surroundings. They make people remember you. Too many chase consistency, always being strong, always being in control, always instilling fear. But that doesn't just wear down those around you, it burns you out. Leadership is not a marathon of dominance. It's a dance with rhythm. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you take a step back, and in those quiet retreats, trust is born. Let people feel your absence. Let them stumble. Let them miss your clarity. And when you return, your voice will carry 10 times the weight. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be where your voice matters most. Don't waste your influence on trivial matters. Let your silence create tension. Let your pauses spark anticipation. That is strength. That is control. Finally, understand this. Power is not an object. You can't hold it in your hands. It's a current. It flows through you as long as you know how to direct it. But if you try to grip it too tightly, it slips away. And when it does, those who feared you become your enemies, and those who respected you will turn their backs. Strength without respect is always temporary, and respect without fear is fragile. True power lives in the balance between those two extremes, like the edge of a blade, beautiful, dangerous, and demanding precision. Do you truly know who stands beside you out of loyalty, and who is only there to one day take your place? Some dangers scream, others whisper. The loud ones are easy to spot, aggressive, direct, exposed, but the whispering ones are the true threat. They wait, they listen, they smile, and they store away envy, resentment, calculation. You think you're in control, that your strength, your status, your authority are solid and unquestionable. But there's one thing you forget. Any seat of power always attracts someone who secretly craves it. And too often, you're the one who lets them closest. You aim to be fair, to share responsibility, to build a team. You bring people to the table who seem reliable, but over time, among those faces, one begins to stand out, calm, quiet, yet with a particular look. There's no admiration in those eyes, no gratitude, only silent jealousy, cold interest. And one day you'll realize they've been studying you all along. The greatest threat to any leader isn't the enemy outside, it's the envious one within. The one close to you, the one who knows your weaknesses, your habits, your methods. They're in no rush, they're patient, they might even help you, just enough for you to get used to them, just enough for you to lower your guard. And when you do, they're ready. You might think that's an exaggeration. That betrayal is rare, but history says otherwise. Look at those who have fallen from the top. Almost always, they were betrayed by those they considered allies. This isn't the exception, it's the rule. Historical example, Julius Caesar. Caesar conquered half the known world, became a symbol of greatness, admired by soldiers and the people alike. But he didn't fall on the battlefield. He fell by the knives of his friends, those he had raised up, those who sat at his table, most famously Brutus. The one Caesar trusted most, almost like a son, and it was his strike that ended it all. Et tu, Brute? Words filled with horror, betrayal, and the sudden realization. The deadliest enemies always wear the mask of closeness. You must understand this. Being a leader means being alert, always. Not paranoid, but clear-eyed. You don't have to suspect everyone, but you do have to see deeper. Silence isn't always loyalty. Sometimes it's camouflage. Compliments aren't always sincere. Sometimes they're long-term investments in future betrayal. That's why a wise leader never reveals everything. He doesn't show all his cards, doesn't expose his weaknesses, doesn't make himself fully readable. Because the moment you become predictable, you become manageable. And a manageable leader is already halfway dethroned. You need internal filters, not based on words, but on actions. Who stays with you when you lose? Who asks for nothing when you're busy? Who doesn't smile at your mistakes? Who doesn't use your silence to try and take your place? The paradox of leadership is that the higher you rise, the fewer people truly celebrate your ascent. Many stay near not because they respect you, but because they want access to your power. They don't want you, they want what you give. And the moment you stop giving, you're no longer useful to them. This is why your strongest defense is partial invisibility. Let no one fully know your thoughts. Let even the closest be unsure of your true intentions. Not out of malice, out of strategy. A leader who cannot be fully read commands caution. You must be like a frozen lake, calm on the surface, but unknowable underneath. Let others feel your strength. Let them enjoy your presence. But let them also carry a quiet fear of misstepping around you, a rational fear, the kind that makes people pause. That's how you build respect that can't be bought with kindness or held with generosity. Don't be quick to destroy every challenger. Sometimes you need them. Their presence is a silent reminder to others that challenging you is dangerous, but be far more cautious with the quiet ones, the ones who are too agreeable. Silent envy is poison, slow, subtle, and always active. Finally, remember this: you don't need to be loved. You need to be indispensable. Your position should be so integral that without you, everything trembles. Even your critics should admit you're the foundation. That's what true power is. Not built on affection, but on being irreplaceable. In that silence, in those stares, in unfinished phrases and masked intentions, the greatest threat to a leader is born, the one they once trusted. And if you don't learn to see, to discern, to control, you'll end up where many before you did, replaced, forgotten by someone who simply waited longer. Are you truly ready to live with the fact that your power exists only as long as others believe in it? Everything you believe to be solid can vanish overnight. Not because of a blow, not because of a rebellion, but simply because at some point people stop believing you're capable of leading. This is the most terrifying truth about power. It's not physical. You can't hold it. You can't lock it in place forever. It exists only as long as it feels real, only as long as others agree to see it that way. You can be strong, intelligent, decisive, but the moment belief in your importance disappears, the entire structure collapses like a house of cards, because influence isn't something you seize once, it's something you're temporarily allowed to hold. And the higher you rise, the more dependent you become on this thin, fragile, invisible contract between you and everyone else. A contract with no words, but where every action is a signature, every hesitation is a stain, every show of weakness a betrayal of your own role. You don't own power, you rent it, and every day you must prove you're still worthy of it. Not out of fear, not because you want to be liked, but because leadership is a permanent tightrope walk. It's unending tension. It's a state where you're never allowed to fully relax. You must be calm and alert at the same time, gentle in your approach, but firm in your boundaries, invisible in intention, yet clear in action, and above all, constantly observing yourself, others, the shadow your choices cast. A true leader is not the one who's always strong, but the one who knows how to remain in control even when everything turns against them, who can hold their ground when they want to scream, who can take a step forward even when everyone else retreats. And here is what you must fully accept. Power is not comfort. It is not peace. It is not safety. It is constant vigilance. It is the inner tension you must learn to live with. It is the loneliness in which you make the hardest decisions, knowing you won't be understood. It is the silence after you give an order, where you're left alone with the weight of your own choices. And if you truly want to influence genuinely and deeply, you must be ready to be judged, feared, admired, and betrayed. All of it not as failures, but as the price of playing the game. A game with no final victory, because power isn't something you achieve once. It's something you must hold on to with every step you take. You might be loved, you might be respected, you might be a god to some and an enemy to others, but if you don't control perception, you've already lost. If you think you've reached the top, then your fall has already begun. If you believe power is stability, you haven't understood it at all. Power is constant proof, daily, silent, unforgiving. It is a game won not by those who shout the loudest, but by those who are sharper, more cunning, more observant. It is a war where survival belongs not to the strongest, but to the most adaptable. You must become not the thunder, but the lightning, not the noise, but the signal, not the storm, but the air before it. And now, after walking this entire path, after facing betrayal, mastering strategy, and seeing through the illusion of approval, it's time to ask yourself the only question that truly matters. Do you still want power, or do you simply fear being nothing at all? Answer honestly, and you'll know who you are and who you're willing to become.